Welcome to Storycomic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 171. I'm your host, Barney Smith of Storycomic.com, and we're excited to have with us the acclaimed and talented comic creator, Phillip Maira. Phillip, how you doing?
What's happening?
Hey, it's going all right. And congratulations so far. You've successfully launched your 4th Kickstarter campaign, and you're well on the way to getting it funded right now. And is this, you have an $18,000 goal. Is this the biggest goal that you've had in your because you did for Crackles volume 1 through 3 wasn't this big though, was it?
No. This right now is the largest so far. So, we're inching there. We're almost to a third funded with, about 2 weeks left to go. We end on Wednesday, June 15th in the morning. The key thing is for this one, I really wanted to, the big thing was paying all the creators a fair page rate. And so all the previous anthologies that I did were the Crackles. And those were slight variation. Well, those were anthologies, but in those, I wrote all the stories and I collaborated with artists from all over the world. So for those books, I paid all the artists out of pocket. And, and then I recouped some of the costs through the Kickstarter. But whenever I had those Kickstarters, all the artists were fully paid in advance and the stories were completed. This time, we have a lofty goal of 18 grand, but about half that money is going straight to the creators and all the creative teams.
Right.
It was one of the key things that I wanted for this anthology. Like, this is a larger anthology than I have previously done, but I've worked my skills and my communication skills and scheduling. So now that I'm fully prepared, and all the artists are just super excited to show everyone we've been working on. But the big thing, like I said, is paying everyone a fair page rate. And that's the necessary for this high goal.
Right.
But yeah, so so I know I'm putting the carpet for the horse. So this anthology is called Purple Eyes, as you can see right now. Yeah. And the premise is, within this world, 73 minutes before you die, your eyes turn to vibrant purple. And there's absolutely nothing you can do to reverse this. There's no medical alleviation, no choices you can make. It's 100% accurate and occurs for all human beings. And the way that this world is structured, I kind of emulated it off of the TV show The Leftovers, because I really, really love that show. And how, for anyone that's unfamiliar, they had a slightly similar event happened in the world, and then people are reacting to it. So in that TV show, it's like our world, and then the event happened where 2% of the population disappeared simultaneously all over the world. And so that TV show explores, some people thought it was the rapture, because it's just 2% of the people disappearing without any trace. And then some people just tried to find it scientifically, thinking that they like transfer dimensions. But then people, like, that TV show explores, like, what would people in that world actually do? And there's some jerks that pretended to disappear because they had bad death stuff, and they just like left. And then there's like TMZ trying to find them on the Cayman Islands and stuff years later. And so I like that aspect of all coming at this world in all directions. So that's what Crackle's like. Purple Eyes is similar in the sense that it's like our world, but the events of these stories happen about 5 to 10 years after the initial Purple Eyes incident. That way, everyone gets, all the people within this world understand the rules and have, become accustomed to it. Right. So yeah, it's, I was first, doing pre-production, trying to figure out the scope of how this book's going to be shaped, and, how many stories should be involved. And I initially budgeted for 12 stories. And I thought that was a good amount, around, roughly 80 pages or so. of content, maybe like 85, depending on back matter. And I was like, okay, this is good. But then I had held open pitch submissions for 6 weeks and actually started receiving the pitches coming in from all over the world. And they were just brilliant. There was just so many, just like I said, I don't know how to put it, but just like brilliant ideas of how people would view this world and the stories they wish to tell in this world, but also just these amazing artists that I had no idea existed. So, so like I had all these pitches. I ended up having 185 pitches, and then I couldn't say no to a lot of them. So it expanded from 12 stories to, as you can see, 18 stories, and that made the budget a lot larger, but that it needed to be that because there was just that amount of mixture of stories that can like feed off of each other, like genre wise. Like there's a sports one, there's a medical drama, there's a few tales of revenge, there's 3 comedies, and those 3 comedies got in because I was literally laughing out loud when I was reading them. Like, these are legit funny, and I can tell that the artists that are bringing these stories to life, they're going to like knock it out of the park. Like, I just read this small pitch, and yeah, it's super exciting. I mean, there's a few other surprises along the way. There's 2 supernatural stories. Like, everything just kind of builds off of each other. And yeah, I mean, one of the key things that's, to me, unique about this anthology is that we're meeting about once a week, once every other week, depending on schedules, on Zoom, and we're figuring out ways to narratively and visually link these stories together. So narratively, in the sense that, the main character of story 4 is the sibling of story like 8, and then story 13, like everyone's, there's a bunch of siblings, or where we have characters that kind of pop in and out of, that are in a few stories just in the background, which kind of bounces back to the visually aspect, because you have all these artistic styles. So then you have to come up with, so artists and I have been coming up with like key different items or visual, I guess just like visually key things, so you can identify these people, because you have all these artistic styles that are very different. So some of that might be like a badass jacket or a haircut. If you do something small like an earring or a necklace, that doesn't really work out. So it's like these little ways that all the artists and I keep, we're all coming together trying to one up each other and make this, just make this the best it can be. And just doing these little connective threads to make all the stories feel, like I said, lived in a full expanded world. It doesn't take, I don't want to like talk down to it, but like, it doesn't take that much, all things considered. Like, it's just a few conversations and just a few pre-planning in the big scope of things, to make it a big scope of things, and so, I mean, personally, I haven't seen that done in indie comics, where you read an anthology, that the stories have any type of tangential links to each other. I mean, sometimes it's based off a thread, or a theme. You get like everyone does sci-fi, or everyone does a Western, or if it's like, what's his face? It's like a public domain, like everyone does Alice in Wonderland or something.
Right.
But the stories themselves aren't usually linked up. It's usually like, if you're doing Alice in Wonderland, it's basically a checklist. Like, all right, well, you can only have so many Cheshire Cat stories, and you can only have so many caterpillar smoking bong stories. Like, yeah.
So what was the reasoning to as a creator, as the creator of the anthology series, what's the purpose to make sure there's a running thread through this, and not be deliberate to make sure they're all 12 or 18 independent stories?
I think I just thought it was more fun. I mean, tell you the truth. I mean, there was no, but one of the key things that I said during the pitch submissions was that like, this is not a mandatory aspect. Like, if your neurons are firing when you hear this idea about the 73-minute purpleized idea, because it is somewhat of a story prompt. Like, if you have like a really cool idea, and want to pitch to it, like I said, the tying of the stories is not mandatory. And there are a few creative teams that chose not to participate in that form and fashion. And that's perfectly fine, because the whole point is to have, an amazing story. And I had it set up just like, if anyone would like to participate in this other kind of side thing, then go for it. Like, it's participation may vary type of thing. So, so that was a very key thing. I didn't want to behold, because that's just asking even more people. Like, oh, then some people like, all right, well, then I gotta figure out all this stuff. But it's just like, yeah, I'm not forcing everything to be this super linked together. But I should also mention, it makes us overall, it's going to make us look a lot smarter, because then the people that didn't that will not be participating in that portion, they'll have something that the audience will be like, oh, they added this that equals from this story and that story. And just, that's always the fun part, is you tell people that here's some of the rules, or here's some of like be prepared for Easter eggs. Right. And people are going to be looking everywhere for Easter eggs, and they're going to make you look a lot smarter than you actually are.
So it's 18 stories, 33 creators. So is it safe to say there's at least one, doing my math, there's at least one who wrote and illustrated?
Yeah. I always call them true cartoonists, like the people that I'm super jealous of that can sit down and just create a comic by themselves. My skill is traditionally as a writer, and so I'm always collaborating with artists of all skill sets. And this time I'm wearing my editor hat as well as the writer hat. But yeah, there are a few true cartoonists, and yeah, they, it's really exciting, because then they come up with the most ideas, because they're thinking of everything, like I said, both narratively and visually.
Right. And so, and how many of these 33 creators that came in to work with you on this, how many of them did you know before with your first 3 Crackly anthologies, and how many of these are brand new that you started first time working with?
So 5, and then tangentially 1. So
okay,
because so Mario Candelaria, who's has a lot of successful stuff on Kickstarter. He did Fog Line recently. He has a book called Killcella, which will be coming out soon in comic shops, probably in the next couple of weeks. I think Scout's doing that. I don't think it's Source Point. It's either Scout or Mad Cave or Source Point, because those guys do a lot. And then Jimmy Kukaj, I always pronounce his name wrong. He's an illustrator. His big book that is just got done with is All the Devils Are Here, which is a big Kickstarter book, which actually they tweeted that the books are in print and they're going to be sent out later this week. But yeah, and then 3 of my buddies are letterers. So letterers always on multiple projects. So Ringo nominated Michael Myers, Ringo nominated Justin Birch, and then Kyla Aoki, or Aoko. They do stuff for Shonen Jump, and they're just amazing illustrator. And I've collaborated with all 3 of those. And then Navaki, I forgot how to pronounce her last name. She was the one that we were friends with, but we never really communicated. And her and CG Salamander came up with a really amazing magical realism story, and especially Davaki's art. I think it's going to be something truly special. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty much what I would call like a true meritocracy. Like, I didn't let friends in because they were friends, and I actually had to say no to a lot of friends. and the word sorry a lot because I'm Midwest, so I apologize a lot. But yeah, that's the thing. Like all these stories were to me the best of the best, and best of the best that meshed well together as far as themes go and art styles.
So we're looking at some of your artists and collaborators on here. And you said originally you wanted 12 and you ended up going with 18 because you really liked them a lot. And obviously, as you said, you got a lot of people that submitted, and you're deliberate with volume 1 because your plan is once this is done, you're going to do a volume 2. Are you going to be kind of following the same setup where you want to have a running theme throughout the volume 2 of the anthology of of interconnecting stories like that as well?
Yeah, very astute. Yeah, it says volume 1 because the idea is that in early 2023, whenever I have everything scheduled, so you will be getting the books physically in your hand by December of this year. So early 2023, when when everyone's read the books, then I'm going to have open submissions for volume 2. And yes, ideally, I would like to continue this running theme or this running linking between stories and narratives, and ideally have tangential threads connecting both books, volume 1 of the books and volume 2 of the books to give the reader that much experience of it's thinking about the long run and longevity. I have not personally written like a long form monthly comic, like a limited series, but whenever I've read interviews by creators, like you have to think of the long game. Like
Right.
you're thinking the short term is like thinking about how can I get this story the best it can be for the monthly readers and make it feel like succinct and not like they're just gonna need to trade wait. But then you also have to think about the trade waiters and the people that come to your book 5 years down the line, because
Right.
that experience is going to be just as fresh to them as it was when it first came back from the printers. And so thinking about the longevity and the shape of what is Purple Eyes between hopefully volume, ideally, if I'm shooting for the moon, I'd like to have 3 volumes of Purple Eyes. And I think that'd be hefty enough. That'd be about 500 pages, maybe 400 pages of stories. And yeah, just like thinking of different ways to link it. So one of the things that um, you know as we are trying to figure out ways to link the stories within this volume, we're not focused on ways to link it for future volumes. But there are these happy accidents when we realize, all right, there are points where we cannot link these stories together. We don't want to have forced things. We don't want this linking stories to be a gimmick. We want it to feel genuine. So Skye Bergeron, who is, like it mentions, a true cartoonist, he's writing and illustrating
Right.
the story, and his story focuses on a character at the natural end of their life. So Skye over here is a young cartoonist. He's still in university, pursuing some type of, I forget which university, but he's pursuing a degree in sequential arts, so basically comic books, comic book degree. And he has the only story of someone, like I said, at the natural end of their life. Most of the main characters in this book are like in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. So this is someone that's closer to the late 80s range. And a key part of that story, of his story, is that the main character has a long-term pen pal. And obviously you're like, who's this other person? Like, you don't, in the short story, you don't see who that other person is, but you see the main character writing the letter, and it's a key part of the story. And so, yeah, we're like, all right, well, who should this be? Like, is this someone's grandpa, like grandparents that, from another story, but we're like, yeah, it's just too forced. Like, one of the key things for any young cartoonists out there and like storytellers, especially with short stories, if you can get rid of a character or combine characters like in the early phase, that's more effective. Like, if you can make a story about two people sitting in a room or going, changing a couple locations, if you can make it about two people, that's that's going to be interesting. Like, versus, if you have 3 or 4 people in a short story, that's kind of a lot. If you only have like 5 or 6 pages and you have 4 different characters, that's a lot for the reader to absorb and get, have a bond with the characters. It needs to be something, it needs to be worthwhile. And so, yeah, so we were like, all right, well, during one of our Zoom chats, we're like, all right, well, Skye will just come back, and for volume 2, he already has some early ideas of who that other person is and what their whole story is. And so he'll write basically a continuation of the one that he made. And, it's these natural these natural ways that, like I said, the creators are trying to one up each other and just put their best foot forward and create the best story that they can. I mean, that's one of the things I love about these, like, making anthologies, is there's just so much excitement. Like, it's a short story. You can put all your crazy ideas in there. It's not a high commitment. Like, you don't have to schedule months of your commission work, and your focus for, you can be a little bit more flexible, and you can just have fun. And that's what I just enjoy about, like, me personally writing and making anthologies, but just giving the opportunities for other people just to I don't know, rock and roll and just do whatever crazy ideas they can come up with. And it's just, I don't know how else to say it. It just makes me smile every time that we get to do this with, there's 33 of us.
Right.
And
so
we all just get along.
So this is as you said, this is the 4th anthology you've been working on. What were some of the lessons you learned in your previous 3 that you were able to implement on this anthology, your 4th anthology? What were some of the lessons learned and mistakes that you made in the past that you knew not to do in this one?
Scheduling is a big one. So usually in the past, I had tighter deadlines that were self-imposed for no specific reason. So now a lot of about 2 to 3 week buffers between the various stages. So, like, for the pitch submissions, I had open for 6 weeks, but I wisely gave myself a 2-week buffer between submissions closed and when I was going to send the accepted and rejection emails. Because for me, I needed, like, I'll let everyone know this. So, like, for any young editors out here, this was helpful for me. Like, I went through each, whenever they came in, I went through each pitch submissions and I set it up as accepted, or like yes, no, and maybe. And so I was able to color coordinate my spreadsheet with green, yellow, and red, so I can have that easy visual. So I was going and doing that, and when it got to submissions closed and I had all those pitches, I was a little lax and I had like 30 left to read at the end. But I gave myself that 2 weeks to, like, really think about which stories actually were stuck in my head and which stories and pitches lingered. And then I let that sit for a week. And then the week going to week 2, when my 2-week duration, I sat down, I reread all the pitches yet again, including the rejection ones, to reaffirm, like, was my decision the correct one, or was it just like kind of like an impulse thing? And yeah, all my decisions were correct. A few maybe shot up to yeses. And when that started happening, I'm like, all right, well, that's the thing too. I didn't see how many yeses that I did. I just said which ones were instant yeses, and then I was like, oh man. So once I started getting to the point where there was like when I was over 12, I was like, all right, well, there's a few really good 3-pagers that can be slid in there and that work thematically with the other stories. So then a few more yellows, some maybes became yeses.
Okay.
So that was my process. But then knowing full well that everything else, like as far as scheduling, um, all the information I need prior to the Kickstarter from all the different creators, artist bios, artist pictures. If you go to the Kickstarter, everyone has pictures and previous work that can be shown to show their skills. And post the Kickstarter, there's once I get the money and then I send, it's going to take a few weeks for Kickstarter to send the money to my bank account. Then I can send it to all the artists, so the artists can get paid and then begin their work, and then buffer the amount of time between when I need the pages and when I need to send the printer, and then buffer the time between when I'm supposed to get the books from the printer, and then send it out to everyone. Like I kept a bunch of buffers just in case something happened, because in the past something did happen. So I've no problem admitting this, but like the last Kickstarter I did a lot myself at some buffer. So the last Kickstarter I did was for Crackle Volume 3, and everything, when I had that Kickstarter, all the pages were done. So the only thing I was campaigning for was printing costs.
Right.
And campaign went really well, had almost 250 backers, and I worked with the same printer that I've always worked with, Comics Wellspring in Michigan, and I will admit it's my fault. So like when I sent in the files for the print proof, because that's another thing, like you have to, if anyone's listening, that's a newer creator, always get a proof, like always get a physical proof of your work before you say yes to the full print run, because things happen. So during this time, I messed up. Like I had a Dropbox, and I hit the limit of the max amount of data I can have in the Dropbox. But I just copy and pasted all the pages into the Dropbox, and yeah, so unbeknownst to me, the middle page was gone. So the middle page didn't do it. So I get the proof back, and there's a blank page in the direct middle of the book. So so that comes in, and I'm like, oh great. And then also dumb me, I don't upload the newest version of the cover. So the cover is incorrect. There's a blank page in the middle. And always for me, because I work with so many different artists, and everyone gets the print templates and stuff. I always adjust the colors a little bit. Usually for me, the colors always turn out a little bit darker. So then I have this first proof, and I have to do color corrections and update a cover and upload a new thing. So I do that. I send them, I send the files. I send them an email. I'm like, listen, I messed up, but I also updated these color ones, and then so I get his proof. The second proof comes in. I think the cover was still bad. It was the old cover. Even though I specifically said that I changed the cover, they probably just saw some of the things were updated and made the updates. So the new book came in, had the missing page. The colors that I made were good, but then also some of the other colors from the ones that were good in the first copy were now bad. And I was like, all right, that's a great thing with working with printers. Like I said, I've worked with them for about 5 years now. I was like, all right, well, I need the cover done, and I need the colors on these few stories are perfect on this copy, and the colors are perfect on this for copy 2, like proof 2. And when and when proof 3 came, it was exactly what I asked for, because they themselves had copies of proof 1 and proof 2. And then as soon as proof 3 came, it had every single thing. Like I said, I was like, this is it. There's absolutely no more changes needed color wise or anything else that I messed up on. And I said, go. And that's the best, like that's as on point of my vision in a physical form as the other Crackles have been. So, but giving myself that buffer going back and forth, giving myself at that point, I buffer myself 3 weeks, and I needed 2 of those weeks. So when when I figured, when I said that they'll be delivered by, I think I waited until January to get past all the holiday shipping rates. Yeah, I mean, I stayed within schedule, and so like when I posted about it, like, hey, here's all the books here, that was still within the line of when people are expecting me to post that. So no one knows. Well, not if you listen to this, no one knows of all the behind the scenes back and forth with the printers. It's one of those things where you hear it all the time. You under promise, but you over deliver. So scheduling helps with that, because people would like to be like, oh, I got my stuff early. I got, someone, they emailed me the book early, or it came in the mail early, a week or two. But if you're a week or two late, a lot of people remember that.
So my other question to you is, because you've already established, you've already put on you already have on, on here all the people that are working on it.
Yep.
So talk to, and you're really smart with this, is where you say, like you said, is that it's really important to pay your artists, really important to pay your creatives. And you've been saying that back and forth throughout the other interviews you've been on, which I think is a really great thing to stand by. How do you now get the accountability on 33 creators to say, this is the deadline for this, this is a deadline for this, this is a deadline for this? How do you get that accountability in place?
I mean, it's at first like it's twofold. So it's one of me being upfront about things. So like during the pitch submission form, I had that full schedule. I said, this is when pitch submissions end. This is when the Kickstarter is going to run. This is when I'll send the first 50% of the payment to the creative teams. This is when pencils are this is when illustrations are due. And then you'll see the rest of the 50% of the payment. And then this is when I'm going to send the files to the printer. So like being upfront with the schedule is super important, because I kind of mentioned that before, as far as scheduling goes as a creator. Pitch, you can pitch and you might not get in, but as artists and writers, it's better to know up front, like all these deadlines or these key points, because it is, I started pitches from recollection, I think in either late February or early March, and the final pencils is sometime in late September. That's basically a person's year that they need to just add to their schedule, even if they do in theory a smaller story, like a 3-page or 5-page. It's still something they need to to think about. But it's also trust. We're all adults, we're all creators in the indie scene. If there's any issues, things happen. I've had that happen to me in the past, where I haven't had an artist burn me, but I've had an artist say they couldn't complete the project, and which is fine. It's just a communication thing. It's like, health issues happen either to yourself or loved ones. Just family things happen. Anything can happen. It's just totally understandable. But just having that communication is always open and key. And I've been lucky enough that, like I said, when it did happen, communication was already open between the artist and I. And same thing with this, like, right. We're in constant contact, like, and at least for us, I found it most effective to do these Zoom meetings, but also we just communicate via email because everyone has email. Because I know some anthologies teams all meet on Discord, and that just, to me, that just seems kind of like a hodgepodge. Like,
Right.
you can just send people emails that everyone can respond to an email, like asking people to download new software, and people that aren't used to Discord. Like, I'm on Discord and some of the comic Discords, but yeah, but like asking someone to just be more ingrained, and yeah.
So let's talk about the pledge levels on here. What I
Yeah.
love about this too, Philip, is it's really boom, boom, boom. Like, you're not inundated with 30 different tiers or 20 different, like, it's yeah, but it's easy. It's easy and simple. You have your $15 pledge,
Yeah.
which is the digital copy of it. Then you have the $25 pledge, which is the digital and physical copy, which translates to $10 for the book, for a
Well,
physical copy.
there was a little Twitter discussion the other day between some friends. I saw that too. Like, they're like, if you get a physical copy and you're already giving out a digital copy, like, do you expect, or do you yourself as the creator offer a digital copy? Like, to me, all it is I say yes, because like everything's built. Like,
Right.
if you're getting the physical copy, you know, I'm not going to lock you out of getting the digital copy because you didn't choose that tier. It just seems like, you know, it seems like it's kind of gatekeeper, because it's just basically me checking your name in a box when I hit send, when I send the
Right.
email to hit send. So
I think that's a great price too. So then you have $45
yes.
for all the anthologies. So not only do you get the digital copies of Crackle Volume 1, 2, and 3, and and then the digital copy of Purple Eyes, but you also get the physical copies of Crackle Volumes 1 through 3 and Purple Eyes for $45.
Yeah,
Wow.
250 pages. I thought that was pretty good.
So, and what the other really cool thing about this too is that there's 19 backers on that, which means that's 19 new readers for you.
Yeah, but that's a key thing too. So the idea for me, at least for anthologies, and that's why I love doing them, is having readers, like, your favorite artist that made you notified about that anthology is like your entry point. But then you
Right.
read all the stories within it, and then you find new artists or new storytellers that you start enjoying. And one of the things that, like, I'm laughing now, but like one of the things that always makes me smile is, some of the Crackle artists are like friends and follow each other and stuff. And some of them have met up before in real life, which is crazy because, like, she's German, but she's in the UK. And Hannah, who's German, who lives in Germany, they've met each other at a convention. Like, all these people that
Right.
I may never meet in real life, because most of them are either in Europe or South America. Um, they've met, or it's always fun watching them like each other's like art posts and stuff. It's like, oh, it's nice, because it's like I was that connective tissue that they may not have known each other. But yeah,
Right.
the same thing with this. Like, there's just so many wonderful artists that now I just see all the Purple Eyes people getting along and like boosting each other's work, and like, even like little things like boosting each other's posts about like sales on their web store. It's just fun, and the reader gets the same experience.
Right. That's great. And then you have your support your local comic shop for $75.
For sure.
So talk to us about this one.
So one of the key things is I always try to boost and try to think about comic shops. Like I've been very fortunate. If you scroll down to the bottom, like I've been very fortunate to have my Crackle books in comic shops all across the country, and so that little section toward the bottom is all the shops that you can get Crackle, any of the Crackle books. So a good chunk of them are in Chicago, but a lot of them are scattered across the United States. And yeah, I just, you know, I there's how do I describe this? There's different types of, or there's people get to comics in various different ways. So the people that are on Kickstarter, there's a good chunk of people that are on Kickstarter and get Kickstarter books that don't step into brick and mortar shops at all. But there's plenty of people that go to the brick and mortar shops that do not go on Kickstarter. So, and these, I believe so much in all these stories that we create and the creators themselves that I just want to get the word out there more. And so I'm always trying to figure out ways to incentivize and make it the easiest possible for comic shops to sell the book and to carry the book. Well, to carry a book and then sell it because they don't want it to sit on the shelf. So we try keeping it as pretty much at cost value for the comic shops, print wise, as well as I do this for the Crackle books too. I send them bookmarks. So now I've asked comic shops, what can I do for you? Can I send you a poster? What can I send you to help sell these books? And the response that I usually get is, send us bookmarks. We can always give away a bookmark. So I usually send a small stack of bookmarks whenever a comic shop would like to stock the Crackle books. And if you go to a comic shop and you pick up a bookmark and use that bookmark for about for 2 or 3 weeks, and you're looking at this thing and you're using it for multiple comic books, the person might go into the comic shop and be like, all right, what's up with this thing that I picked up the other day? The cover looks pretty cool and colorful and stuff, and there's space things going on. So same thing with Purple Eyes. Like I have not designed it yet, but I know what the design for the eye-catching design is going to be for that bookmark. Yeah, but just figure out easier ways for comic shops to sell the book, and yeah,
that's really good. And then you have one more left of your get drawn into a story. Your other ones are gone. You have a few that got drawn into a story are gone, but you still have one left. One backer, so you limited one of 2. So there's one left to get drawn into a story for $100 for Stephen Charles Rosia's story.
Yeah, I mean those tiers got gobbled up pretty fast. So it's kind of remarkable that there's even one left. But yeah, so same thing with usual. We want to do some type of incentive of there's so many crowd scenes, or there's so many stories in general and the artists felt that they can fit inside their narratives pretty clean. So, and we thought that'd be $75 or no, $100 we thought was a fair price, because you're basically paying $75 for the cameo appearance.
Right.
You're getting the book also. So, but yeah,
cool.
There's a few other things that, you can't really see it here, but it's mentioned within the Kickstarter. We have, I would say, unique add-ons. So one of the key ones that's doing really well is we have a digital bundle. So between the Purple Eyes creators, it's just friends of mine. Yeah, there you go. The digital bundle add-on. So there's some Purple Eyes creators in there. There's friends of mine. There's about 5 more right now, at least, that are not on that list that I haven't announced. But yeah, they're just friends of mine and creators that I believe in, and stories that I believe in, as well as Purple Eyes stories, or Purple Eyes creators and their previous work.
Nice.
It's not that pretty cheap. We're only selling it for $25 as an add-on. That's been going really well. You get a lot of stories that are full stories or issue ones. And then another unique thing that we're doing, which there are still a few slots open in the add-on section, is we're doing custom commissions. And part of those custom commissions are, your traditional ink on paper.
Right.
And you yourself, you choose which artist. There's a few artists with those open commission slots, so you can choose which specific artist you'd like, as well as you choose which character you like. So whatever TV show, movie, manga, comic book character you want illustrated. So it'll be ink on paper. And the little twist is that if the character has any type of purple on their costume or themselves, the artist will add the purple on there. So it'd be like I said, ink on paper, but with either purple copacetic markers or watercolors.
So if people are interested in wanting to follow you, what would be the best place that they can?
Would it be?
Yeah,
I'm mostly on Twitter.
Okay.
So my name, Phillip Maira, PhillipMaira. What Barney's showing right now is my website. So it's the same thing, phillipmaira.com. And there's preview pages of all the Crackle stories. And yeah, I'm on Instagram though, but I'm mostly on Twitter. And then you can find Purple Eyes on Kickstarter. Just type in Purple Eyes, it'll pop up, or purpleeyescomic.com, and that'll shoot you to where it is. So, if you're listening to this far into the future and the campaign's over with and you still want the book, it'll point to my web store and it'll point to the correct page.
Okay. Cool. What a great concept. So I'm really excited to read more about this, Phillip. And listen, you got to come back on for when you have volume 2 or when Crackle volume 4 and any of that stuff comes out. So
I'll definitely come up with whatever my next crazy idea is. Like I think I know what my next project will be post Purple Eyes. Something I can tangentially do at the same time as volume 2 of Purple Eyes. I'm just, as you can see, I'm just grinning. I'm just so excited about this project and all the creators and what we're trying to do. Now we just need to get the money and then we create. It's just that simple.
Cool. Perfect. Well, thanks a lot for coming on, Phillip. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Barney, for having me.
You're welcome. We'll get going. And it's Maira, right? Maira. Okay. All right. I thought I heard someone say Maira, but it's Maira. I was going to say Maira. All right. That's easy. All right. Perfect. All right. Here we go, Phillip. All right. And then when I say Phillip, is it the first L or the second L is silent?
I don't know. It's just Phillip.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, I was confused.
All right. Here we go, Phillip.